Well, the FBI wants to interview two people who told Fox Nation they know where Jimmy Hoffa is buried. Those revelations came when I interviewed them for our Fox Nation documentary series, Riddle, The Search for James R. Hoffa. You know, our investigation delves into what happened to the iconic labor leader who vanished in Detroit in 1975. The FBI believes he was killed there. Multiple sources have claimed that Hoffa's body was then transported from Detroit to the Garden State by the very New Jersey mobsters who killed him.
I'm going to tell you where Jimmy Hoffa is buried. And he told me. I am the only person that knows the location of his final resting place. Sally's the one that pulled the trigger in Detroit. They sent them down to us.
The body, you mean?
Yeah, the body was sent down here.
My father straight out told me.
He saw Hoffa's body.
He said he didn't, don't take this the wrong way, because I had a lot of respect for him.
Yes.
But what he said was they couldn't fit the fat little man in feet first. All right? And he said that with not showing disrespect to Hoffa. He had a lot of respect for Hoffa.
So you're saying your father buried Jimmy Hoffa?
Yes. And he was very upset all his life because he was told to do it.
Bob Bianchi is with us, former prosecutor, criminal defense attorney. Bob, good to see you. If the FBI meets with the two men we just saw, Phil and Frank, and they tell their stories, can what they say corroborate what the FBI has that we may not know they have? Or could this take this investigation into a whole other area?
We have 4 generations, at least, of FBI agents that have been looking into this case. They have a copious amount of data. The FBI was under a lot of pressure to try to solve it. So you can be assured that they have a lot of information. They're going to talk to these two sons. Eric, I've talked to you about this before. The most compelling thing to me as a homicide prosecutor is that both of these fathers gave essentially a deathbed confession to their sons. They would not put their sons in harm's way and the possibility of being criminally convicted for lying to law enforcement. And the reason the fathers gave the information is they thought that Hoffa's body should be returned to the family and that they didn't think what happened was the right thing. So I found that to be very compelling information. The FBI will look at that information, see if it's corroborative of other information they have in the file, see if they can verify it through various means, potentially as polygraphs, sworn affidavits under a penalty of perjury. What father would put their kids in harm's way to be possibly prosecuted? These deathbed confessions from 2 separate men with their kids who had reason to know, very compelling evidence.
Let's show the picture again. You got Frank Coppola. Frank said that it was his father who buried Jimmy Hoffa. He's there on the left. And Phil Moscato, Jr., whose father was Brother Moscato, a Genovese family, a powerhouse in New Jersey. And what you just said about both the fathers telling their sons that they wanted the Hoffa family to have peace, to finally try and get this resolved, to try and finally get the answers. That rings completely true, Bob. Would they face any culpability or any legal exposure coming forward?
No, and first of all, I'm sure their attorneys are going to make sure that should they, which I doubt, because there's nothing that we know in this case right now that implicates these kids in the actual commission of a crime. One of the sons was there, allegedly. I think it was Frank Coppola. You know better than I do.
No, he knew about it. He says his father took him to the site.
Took him to the site.
And that's in the dump in Jersey City, where he believes the body is, but the EPA took out like 10,000 toxic barrels. He told me, and Dan Aldea, who worked on this with us together, that it was his father, as you heard in the soundbite, buried Jimmy Hoffa and showed him where it is.
Yeah, so, I mean, they don't face it. They have information. They don't have an affirmative obligation to come forward with that information. And there's no way that the FBI or a law enforcement agency is going to in any way pursue some sort of criminal charge when there's witnesses that are giving them extremely valuable data that could solve one of America's most unsolved crimes.
You know, the FBI wants to solve this. The Detroit office gave us this statement. Let me read you part of the statement that the Detroit FBI office gave us. They say, quote, "From 1975 until today, generations of special agents have worked on Mr. Hoffa's case, and each one of those agents has been dedicated to finding justice for him and his family. This many years later, we are relying on the consciousness of people who may still know something about the disappearance to compel them to come forward with what they know. Over the years, our office has followed all credible leads we received from the public. We are aware of the recent reports of 2 individuals who claim to have knowledge about the whereabouts of Mr. Hoffa. The FBI welcomes the opportunity to speak to those individuals. We would like to solve this case." Bob, finally, what would it finally mean to get information that can solve the mystery of what happened to Jimmy Hoffa?
I would be remiss, Eric, if I didn't say that the reason that this is happening is because of the work that you and Dan did. And I've talked to you behind the scenes about it. It's amazing. You sparked this interest. And what it ultimately means to solve it is that it is a great day of pride for the FBI. Moreover, it's a great day of resolution for the Hoffa family. As prosecutors, we want to give the remains back, or the answers back, to the victim's family, as well as the union and the American public, who has been so invested in finding out about what happens in the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa.
So well said. Robert Bianchi, former prosecutor, a defense attorney. Bob, thank you.